Today I'm off for a walk down onto the Solway shore, and I'm at the Scottish Wildlife Trust Reserve at Southwick. I've been coming here for many years, but before we actually walk down onto the Merse, I'm going to take you to the secret viewpoint, which I suppose is not very secret now that I'm going to show you where it is, but it's a spot where it's well known on TV when Bill Bailey stood looking out over the Solway when he was doing a TV programme here. But it looks down onto the Scottish Wildlife Trust Reserve, and you can see one of the many Lot's Wifes, the pillar of stone down in the reserve. And if you look across to the channel there, beyond that you've got the RSPB Merse Head Reserve. So we'll now take a wander down on to the beach and see what's there. But just before we do that, what I would like to say is the parking, there is only parking for about 2 cars. So if you get there and there's 2 cars, then I'm sorry, there's no, you just got to move on. Don't abandon your car and block access. These country roads, you know, there's big tractors nowadays using some of them. People need to live and work in this area. So park sensibly, and if there's no space, you'll just need to come back another day. Okay, just now, this is at low tide, and that's when I'm going to walk out. It's extremely important if you've ventured down onto the Solway like this that you know and understand the tides. I'm going to put in a still image here just to let you see how it changes. So there you go, you know, high tide and it's covered. It's very easy to get cut off. These channels fill up at an alarming speed and you can end up being stuck. But all you need to do would be move to higher ground up through the wood here and sit it out for a couple of hours till the tide drops back again. But once we get as you walk down into the reserve, the first thing you'll notice is this big stone arch here at the bottom. But one thing I would say is be mindful, this is a nature reserve, there's birds nesting here, there's plants, some of them are quite rare in this part of the world. So always be on your best behaviour, let's say. Great place to take photographs though, and again it's quite an interesting wee reserve. It was probably put on social media, I think, during the first lockdown. Somebody was down here for a visit, and I think things went crazy after that. But it's a nice spot, and it's good to see that people are getting out. Just please respect the area. As I say, it is a nature reserve and owned and managed by the Scottish Wildlife Trust. This is a natural stone arch, you can see here. Quite an interesting feature in itself. And if we go through to the other side and turn round and look back, I always think it's almost like something out of a film like Narnia or something like that. And at different times of the year and in different light scenarios, the arch itself can really look quite dramatic. And I know a lot of photographers like it. I'll just swing round there and just let you see what it looks like. There we go. That's it from the coast side looking back up. A lovely spot. So when you come down the path there, you'll see it opens out into the open Merse here, and we're looking along the way we were going towards where that viewpoint was I was standing earlier. But the first thing you'll notice is there is a whacking great big deep channel here, which you don't need to cross, but it does fill up very quickly when the tide starts to run, long before the tide is due at high tide. And this is where some of the problems arise, because I know there has been people that have been caught out with the tide down here and panicked. But as I say, if they ever did, all you need to do is head into the wood and just get up onto some higher ground and sit it for a couple of hours. No need to call a lifeboat. But anyway, I'll show you as we walk along. We have a number of these channels here to cross. Some of them are quite deep. Again, they fill up with water. They're very slippy, so be very careful here. But one of the things I will tell you about this site is that certainly in the early part of the spring, from late March through probably to late May, it is absolutely alive with adders. Don't believe me, if you know my wife, just ask her about the adders on Southwick Wildlife Reserve, and it is a well-known area for adders, so just be very aware with kids, dogs, whatever, and even yourself. Here's a sort of prime example as what you're up against to get across. So if anybody's for the sort of faint-hearted, just be very wary getting over some of these, because you will fall, you will get muddy, It's power for the cause these days in the countryside, I think. On a cold February day, there's still not a lot of life in any of the trees yet. It's going to be a few more weeks yet before the colour starts to come, but I may well come back in the spring once the sea pinks are out on the merse and the scurvy grass, etc. It can be quite colourful down here. Today it's fine, but not a lot of colour. Once you get along to what probably is the main attraction for most people, it's the Lot's wife, the pillar of stone there. You know, I mean, is there just that one? You know, the big one behind there is actually a pillar as well. And there's also another smaller one just off to the left there, which I'll walk around in a minute. But I'll show you what the star attraction is just in a second or two. If you haven't already worked it out from the noise, you'll now see what the sort of main attraction has been here in the past for people to come. And that's the waterfall. But I would say just be mindful if you come here, particularly in May and June. There are a couple of species of birds that like to nest in this vicinity, and if you're here, personally I wouldn't have a prolonged stay. If you want to get a photograph or whatever and get away, but the less disturbance just during these 2 months, the better for that particular species. I think this is where we'll end the walk for today, here at the waterfall, unless I find anything on the way back. But thank you for watching, and until the next time, goodbye.